Ma'am, we have received a couple of questions in the chat box.
Yes.
May I read it out, ma'am?
Yeah, please.
A question by Jerina Sultana.
Yes.
How does gender discrimination harm society? What could be done on our campus to improve the status of women or men? How can I join these efforts?
Yeah, she can play a role by, number one, realizing that her role as educator is very important. See, I'll tell you, as an educator, you have an influence, right? You have an influence. You have a sphere of influence. So when you tell your girl students or you encourage them, that makes a lot of difference. I'll give you an example. You know, in my early years of teaching, when I was in women's college, I had a student like this, a girl. She was very good. She was very good. So I didn't want to praise her in front of the class because I don't want to make the other people, the other children feel bad. So one day after my lecture, she followed me out, and she asked me, "Ma'am, what do you think about me?" I said, "I think you're very, very good. You're very smart. Keep it up." I said. And you know what she said? She said, "No, madam, actually, it's my brother who's very good. It's not me. In my family, I said, I don't know your brother, so I can't comment on that. But I am telling you, you're very intelligent. You're very smart." I mean, that was like a absolute eye opener to her, because although in her family she was smart, they never told her that. They used to always elevate her brother. So you will not believe this, but this girl has kept contact with me for many, many years after that. Because she said, you were the first one who told me that. I said, yes. That's what I'm saying, you know, wherever you find that students need to be encouraged, please encourage them. Don't all the time be discouraging. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. Give them a pat and tell them you're doing well. I hope that you do better. Okay? So have I answered that?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, very good,
no, some part of the question has to be answered at, ma'am. What could be done on our campus to improve the status of women?
Oh, I see. Get them involved in many activities like debates and discussions and forum. Let them not always do that song and dance kind of thing. I don't like that culture in colleges, where girls are only made to sing and dance. And there's nothing wrong with singing and dancing. Please don't get it wrong. But I'm saying, parallelly with that, why don't you help them to develop other skills? I mean, why can't they be put sometimes in certain leadership roles? That will boost their confidence. I mean, they can continue their dancing and singing. I'm not against that at all. But I'm saying don't confine it to that. So try, bringing out their, I think I'll have to talk to you one day about soft skills. Then you will know what I'm trying to arrive at. See, in classes all the time, we are concentrating only on subject skills, hard skills, professional skills. But soft skills is a totally different area. So when you make them, aware of their skills, and have skills training, then they will get more confidence. They will not all the time think, oh, I'm female, I'm a girl. No. Bring them to the level where they think that they are individuals. That's why I said transcending gender, going beyond gender. As teachers, all of us must have that. Transcending gender, going beyond gender boundaries. Then that will boost their confidence. I hope you're getting my point. Convey the
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
We have got another question, ma'am,
yes.
by Anjanailu.
Oh, yes.
Ma'am, from the history like pre-independence and post-independence, really women facing issues in the society, getting power, according to you, how women will get place in the society?
That historically, it is men who have liberated women. If you say historically, women were in such a position that they could not help themselves. So, for example, you talk about the practice of sati in India. I mean, young girls were being thrown into the fire because their husbands died. Okay, if an adult bride does it, I have no problem. But little girls, and they used to scream. It took Raja Ram Mohan Roy to liberate. So that's history actually. Part of history is how men have put their efforts to help women. And I like that. But now I think women should reach an autonomous state where they are able not only to help themselves but to help others also. You should be in that autonomous condition. That is why I don't like this gender war. I think it's so immature. Now, what is happening in the country, sometimes I fail even to understand. I think, what are they thinking? What is in their mind? So sometimes I believe as educators, it is part of our duty also to educate some of the masses of this country. I think women teachers can talk to the women, see? Talk to the mothers of your students and try to find out. I mean, try to educate them first. I hope you're getting my point. I hope I'm making sense. Right? Okay. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We have received another question on YouTube by Nagaraju Yadav.
Yes.
Are there any factors that keep both male and female are equal in the world?
Oh yeah, so many factors. So many factors, natural and induced, that can bring about a great, divide. But as I said, our focus should be on the fact that the sexes should be complementary to each other. I mean, that should be the formula. See, I'll give an example. Suppose you take a woman out of the family for 2 or 3 days. Can the man survive happily with the children only? Oh, I think that will become chaos. See? Now, the same should be the case if the man is removed from the family for 3 days. Should be the case. That means he should make himself so useful in the family context that his wife will feel his absence, the children will feel his absence, and if there are, elders, they should also feel the absence. That's what I'm saying. Environmental pressures from prejudice, pressures from mental conditioning are so many. But as educated people, as people of some awareness, we should know our respective roles in the process of daily living.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, another question by Dr. Archana. Earlier, women used to keep male pseudonym for their writings. I think now the time has changed, but it needs to be changed more. What do you comment?
They drop their family name or the father's name and they take on the husband's name. Now I'll tell you what's the latest trend. They keep the father's name and they add the husband's name also. But if you ask me, my personal view, I think a name is your identity. Your name is your identity. So your name is most important. Therefore, your identity, not for you to show off. The surname, I don't know whether it makes much difference, whether it's your father's name or your husband's name. Later you want to add your son's name. That's up to you. But please remember this. Your name, and that's why I keep telling some people in the WhatsApp, they have their name and everything. They keep a scenery. I say, please don't keep this. Keep your pick, because that's your identity. They say, no, we want to give some good quotation from a holy book. I say, wonderful. But please remember that pick is your identity. I can make you out by that pick. I can't make you out by the scenery, see? But I believe some people have different opinions on this. That's what I'm saying. Your name is so basic to your identity. So I would advise all women to keep to their names, just like men keep to their names. Does a man change his name after marriage? No, he doesn't. He sticks to. So at least that we can learn, from the men. I think there's so much to be learned from each other.
Yes, ma'am.
So much to be learned. And then, in the process, we become enriched. You will never become impoverished because you learn from your husband, you learn from your father, you learn from your uncle. What's wrong? Vice versa, it's also true. Oh,
yes, some of the participants have agreed with your opinion, ma'am. Dr. Jerina Sultana is giving the statement, I don't agree to change the name after marriage as it is our birthright given by our parents.
Absolutely. No, at least Arena is being quite just, I know some places where they change of the girl's name also.
Yes, ma'am.
Before marriage, I believe that, some of my classmates I was not able to track on Facebook just by the name, because everything was different. Her name and her father's name was all erased. And they said, no, after marriage, you should take on a new name. I said, oh my gosh, is it like that? I said, of course, I've not
Yes,
done
ma'am.
that.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions on YouTube by Ajim, PhD scholar from our department. What do you think about Me Too movement? Did it help all women irrespective of their economic class?
Me Too was a movement that all of us are aware of, but sadly it got misused. I'll explain. You talk so much about women's empowerment. I don't believe in that. Women's empowerment, because it can be misused. I know in cases where the husband is innocent, but the wife wants to take advantage. So she will make all kinds of police complaints and get the husband arrested when she's in the fault. She's at fault. So I think any misuse of Me Too or women's empowerment should be absolutely discouraged.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I believe that. I mean, let us be fair and square.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we are all human beings. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
One is male and the other is female. Doesn't matter. Yes.
Another interesting question by our OUCIP technician. He's doing PhD, Mr. Shamil.
How sweet.
He's asking, ma'am, we are just curious to know how you define marriage and love.
Oh, but this is not in the gender culture thing, no? How I define love?
Marriage and love.
Marriage is, according to me, it's a social necessity. Marriage, according to me, is required to bring about some order in society. I think it's that. I see that at a very practical level. For example, I'll tell you, it is not good for man to live alone. It is not good for woman to live alone. So that's why I believe marriage is a good thing. It's a good thing. Brings about social order, brings about some, meaning, brings in, the concept of children. So integral, so important. About love, I don't know. It's so difficult.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, another question from YouTube viewers by Satya. How can we change gender discrimination in politics?
Oh, yes, that's what I was talking about. I was waiting for that 33% reservation to come in Parliament. And so when I was talking to a friend of mine, she said, don't worry, Annie, this will never happen. That's what I'm saying, when it's about power and about control, the men won't give in. Why they won't give in? They're accustomed to that. They're accustomed to that kind of a social setup, to that kind of a political setup. So it will take a long time, but I'm sure it will happen. It will happen. In politics, it will happen. I will not bat for the 33. I will ask for 50%. Half men and half women. I think that's so wonderful. Don't you think? Yes?
Yes.
Wonderful.
In the chat box, we have received a wonderful feedback about you by Dr. Usha Sharan. She got married 41 years ago. She did not change her name.
Hello, ma'am. It was really nice talking to you, listening to you, ma'am. And, I teach in a college, a girls' college, which is located in the northeastern part, almost a rural area in Bihar. Okay. So, interacting with girls on a gender, platform has been a very new experience for me, because of course, I've been teaching since a long time, but things have changed. And with the coming of this social media, there's a new aspect of, the empowerment, the feeling of empowerment and the feeling of liberation that these girls are having now. And on that note, I was just like, I just wanted to share, that even in these rural parts, what you observe is very, encouraging, the way the girls are coming out and the way, they are defining themselves in a very, very positive note it is very, very encouraging. This is what I wanted to share. And this is, even in these rural parts of this, these are God forgotten areas where, this development and all these things don't reach. But it's very encouraging to see, when the girls are interacting with among themselves and how they have changed. When I joined around 20 years ago, the girls would walk to the college, and now I see them coming on scooties and bicycles and all that. And it's so nice, feeling that, yes, they have, sort of, come to a level where these urban and city life and metros, these divides are slowly getting diminished. So this is what I wanted to share, and it was very nice listening to you, ma'am.
At the outset, I must say my wholehearted gratefulness to Professor Annie Pothan ma'am. In fact, I was not a student of Annie Pothan madam, but she was like my teacher when I worked with her, and when I was the most junior colleague to Professor Annie Pothan madam in the department, and the guidance that she gave me while I was attending an interview as the research scholar almost 15 to 20 years ago. First time I met her at Nizam College. She was teaching seriously in the classroom. I went to her classroom. I asked her immediately. She rushed to her staff room, and ma'am gave me the wonderful suggestions regarding the interview, and I was successful in that interview. I was selected by the Public Service Commission, and I was appointed as the government lecturer at that time. Thank you very much for that, ma'am. And as the teacher, as the scholar, now as the director of OUCAP, whenever I make phone call to ma'am gives the positive response, very optimistic response. Thank you very much, ma'am. This lecture will be placed on YouTube very shortly, and I hope that many scholars will watch this video. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation to spare your valuable time and to share your valuable thoughts with us this evening. Thank you, ma'am.